Well, the month of July has dawned and South Africa enters its second phase. As I've told you over the past few months, and in fact, yeah, at the age of about 30, we start our adulthood, and that is now where we stand in this country. Just like in 1990, when South Africa was 29 to 30, and the old dispensation then was ditched and the groundwork laid for a new one. Well, that happens every 29 to 30 years in almost every country. And certainly that's very visible. It's a maturing, it's a next level, and it bodes well for what follows in the sense of greater maturity, which does seem to be at least one way of understanding some of what happens in this government of national unity, whereas everyone knows it's really a collection of people with very different policies, and that's going to require a level of cooperation and maturity that is would really be something new in this country, but it's demanded, and that's why we can hope that's what's going to happen. And when we look at the chart for the month of July, it does look promising in that regard. This is a month where, on the whole, we kind of cut out a lot of the unnecessaries and really get down to the bottom line. It's a month where we stand on our feet, just like we did in the beginning of the 90s. Here we see this pattern repeating now, where we stand on our feet, take it or leave it. This is who I am. The unnecessaries are stripped away, and we work from here. Some astrologers actually describe this position as the buck stops here, which is a way of saying that I'm responsible, I take responsibility, and if you want to deal with anything, you deal with me. That's the concept of the buck stops here, and which is a great, strong place for us to be as a country, especially since there does seem to be some focus on foreign affairs in the chart. Unsurprisingly, with the Department of Naledi Pandor, there is a bit of a readjustment with foreign affairs, not majorly, but certainly it does look a bit friendlier, whereas we also see a little bit of an adjustment of who's interested in us and who our friends are and all of those kind of things. Much of that we won't really see. It's probable that the world is standing by to see what happens with a new policy of foreign affairs or whatever might happen, international relations, whatever might happen in that regard, but certainly actually looks quite good in the chart. It looks like high levels of communication with countries, new doors opening up, new interaction opening up. At the very least, even though there probably won't be a policy shift in that regard, there will be renewed international communication and interaction. And certainly it would seem from the chart that other countries, some of whom might not be our greatest friends or our greatest friends anymore, might be willing to engage in a dialogue or to reopen dialogue and see what happens there. But nevertheless, there's also a lot of new policy shown in the chart in the sense of some of our existing partners, for example, in the BRICS um, gathering, grouping, we do still see some very positive developments there. So the world seems to be a little bit optimistic as well and is more accommodating to what might be a difference of opinions. All bodes well for forging new kinds of relationships. And that's really what it's about. In the same way that this is kind of a new kind of government for us, because it's not a constitutional government of national unity that we saw in 94. It's also a realigning and redefining of how we're doing many other things. And so that looks promising for at least some early signs that the cooperation is working and that people are actually seeing South Africa, other countries are actually seeing South Africa in a little bit more of a more respectful light, as might have been truer like 30 years ago. So that's also good to see. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean we are the darling of the world or anyone's fooled that everything's suddenly going to be absolutely fantastic and so on. We can see it's a willingness, but it's not yet anything in action. So we're still at a place where the initial actions of this new style of government that we have here are being very carefully watched, both locally and abroad. Not surprising at all. but it does bode well that, as expected at the beginning of the year, when I spoke about the year ahead, that we can see some really positive uh, results and experiences to do with the Paris Olympics coming up in this chart as well. So we can see, as promised, some good performance by South Africans, young and female South Africans showing very prominently in the area of sport in this chart, and that's also promising for our international relationships. We can also see in the chart that the expected strength of the currency and relative strength of the market does continue, although some new cracks are appearing. That's not really so serious as the fact that the chart really does show that things are continuing to be stable and improve ever so slightly. There do seem to be some new kinds of expenses that emerge out of presumably the increased cabinet is at least a small part of that, but certainly from the chart's point of view, as things are adjusted and new eyes are looking at new things, there's going to be some expenditure before there is some saving. Again, not too much of a big deal because the chart is really showing the economic situation in a reasonably positive light and certainly in a growing light. It must be said that what is the most challenging thing in this chart, because you can hear the economy looks good, sport looks really great, international affairs are adjusting themselves, all very so far so good. But perhaps not unexpectedly, the real drama in this chart lies in the parliament and in the opposition. The official opposition is now the MK party, and the leader of the opposition, the disgraced former judge Jean Tlhophe, is going to be a formidable task for the parliament to deal with and for the government to deal with. In a different way, of course, than Malema's um, kind of aggressive, brash, violent style, because he wasn't the official opposition. I was just trying to undermine everything. Tlhophe, with his legal background, with his status as the leader of the opposition, is going to be a much bigger problem. And that shows immediately. So we know Parliament's going to open in the late part of this month, and we're going to immediately see action from the MKP in the shape of John Tlhophe as to what we face in the coming years of opposition. We all know that the grand coalition or government of national unity is fragile and is easily disrupted and disturbed, needs a lot of time still to find its feet, time that it doesn't have, to find how things are going to work and how things are going to resolve, because as we saw in the negotiation, it's very clear that it's not going to be an easy process at any time and is capable of breaking at any time. And no doubt, Tlhophe will try and exploit that and exploit the weaknesses right from the very beginning. So that's what we need to be on our toes for. The parliament, nevertheless, shows as being in a strong position. That's because there's so many unified forces in there in the shape of that government of national unity. And we can also see the people still responding well to that. One of the characteristics of the post 94 South Africa is that it clearly does show the people's government, the people's choice winning, and that's the realignment that has happened, that in many ways the people have a greater voice than they've had for many years. That's a great place to start with. I've often said here that the real intention and meaning of the people in South Africa's chart mostly relates to the fact that we have such strong and active grassroots communities, non-governmental organizations, and similar structures, which really do their best to hold government to account and to institute um, things which the government themselves seem incapable of doing, and really working from the ground up. We've seen a lot of change in this country happen because of grassroots, because of these structures that I'm talking about that really represent the people. And yes, the people do certainly feel that the parliament represents them better now, and this seems to also give renewed vigor to these additional organizations, perhaps to work more cooperatively, at least with parts of the government that are now more open to them, and that might achieve results that satisfy South Africans. So far, so good. This is not the bubble that we experienced with the Rainbow Nation at the beginning of the first new South Africa in 1994. And it's good. We don't want a bubble because bubbles are hot air and they burst. This is cautious optimism, which seems to be infecting the land and affecting in a meaningful way how things get going. So far, so good. We would alert Mr. Ramaphosa to keep an eye on his enemies, but I think which we've said many times here, but I think over the last month and couple of months, he's engaged with that in ways we can't even imagine. And all I would say is that that is actually continuing. The trouble and ripples that is caused in his own party and outside of which through these government of national unity negotiations and how it was eventually established, the animosity that that has caused is not going to go away, and he is going to be experiencing some of this month. Shows very clearly in the chart, but doesn't show so outwardly, meaning as usual that he'll know much more about it than we will, but we will see that. We'll see that in the opposition. We'll see that in the MK party through former Judge Hlophe. So hang on to your hats for that. But for the most part, we're going forward with our heads held high. So good place to start the month. Looking at the month ahead for all of us, and starting, of course, with you, Aries, it is looking like a month where financial matters have a lot of your attention, mostly because money seems to be growing and expanding. And not surprisingly, that creates an itch in your pocket. There is a very clear alert in your horoscope this coming month about holes burnt in the bottom of the pocket, the money going out as fast as it goes in, mostly because of your own spending, or even worse, reckless spending. So it's not going to seriously undermine everything because there's a little bit of luck in the financial gain department as well, and things mostly seem to be working. But be careful. It's a little bit like the chart is saying, your weakness is showing. So this is a good month to have clear and strong discipline to keep yourself under control so that the gains actually accumulate in all way. This is also going to apply to other kinds of gains, so goals and other achievements. And a small indication there could be a little bit of trouble with people close to you. That often means the people immediately around you, whether they are important to you or not, whether that's co-workers, neighbors, people in the immediate space around you, quite literally. So watch out there. It's going to be unsettling. You might need to actually create better boundaries in that area of your life, not engage in any conflicts. You can sail ahead to the next month. Taurus, this is a great month to take a little bit of a back seat, not because nothing's happening for you, but because actually things are working quite well and you don't want anyone else and their stuff to interfere. So this is a great month for identifying who is a little bit of a thorn in your side, or even if they don't mean to be, and also creating not only better boundaries, but clearing your space a little bit, or really just keeping to your own thing, putting your head down and getting on with it, because that's really going to work for you. That also makes it a great opportunity to put a little bit more fun and pleasure into this month, even maybe a little bit of romance or spending time with people you love and doing things that you love. That's really going to be a great way to spend the time that's in withdrawal, as well as to make sure that you develop some of your ideas and goals and whatever, so that as we get to more active months in the months ahead, you can go out there and put them into action. So it's a time of regaining some of your fertility of ideas and goals and so on. Everything else continues to work. Just keep your space clean when it comes to people, and all will be good by the time you get to next month. Gemini, matters at home need a lot of your attention at this time. It's a great time to be spending more time at home and focusing on doing what needs to be done at the home. It just doesn't seem that easy to actually happen. And there are going to be issues that need to be sorted out. One of them is there's too much going on. And so whether that literally means the home space is too crowded with people and things, or there's too much that you have to do around there, but with other people in the home, whether it's your partner, your children, or anyone else, this could be leading to a certain amount of conflict. So focus, delegate, arrange, kind of gain control over your personal kingdom. It's possible that with regards to the family and the bigger family around you, the family that you come from, there are also issues that need to be dealt with, and some things that are going to demand your energy and attention. There's a warning against a lot of wasted energy in your chart. So that also means be aware of your own limitations. Not everything can be done by you when it comes to your family, when it comes to your home. That's why delegating is important, and having a clear structure of who's doing what and who's responsible for what. With regards to home and family, that's going to give you the opportunity to really take charge of things, to sort out lingering, festering problems, and to clear the path for the family for the road ahead. Cancerians, this is a month of relationship for you. This is an opportunity to really sort out some of the relationship matters in your life. Reconnecting is what it's really all about. There does seem to be a need to focus your attention more on people that you really do care about, and not waste so much of your energy on acquaintances or others who are really not bringing any value into your life in any way. It's a little bit like your chart saying, who do you love? That's where your energy belongs, both in terms of your personal relationships, in terms of people like your children, and sometimes it even means, what do you love? And focusing more on what really does it for you. It is your month to think about, where does my heart lie in terms of people, things that I do, things that I have, and just reassessing and readjusting to get the heart right, because this is a month where that's really going to work for you. Your heart is talking to you. It's like you know what you want. You've just got to do something about it. And doing something about it will bring great results, because Cancerians like nothing more than the close bonds that they have with the people that they love. And so much of that love can come back to you this month if you put your focus and your energy on the people that really matter to you. Leos, you'll find yourself dealing with people that are kind of acting as obstacles, slowing things down in some way, whether deliberately or not. These might also be employees or people that provide service for you in some way. And this could be a good time to re-look at that. It's a time to ask yourself, who's actually on my page? Who's on my side? Yes, they are not there just for you. They're earning a salary, or they also must gain something out of anything they're doing for you. But there's really a sense of create important, close bonds with people who have common goals as you. So that both applies to people who are working for you, people who are working with you, or they might just be other people, colleagues that have similar goals to you. This is a time to align yourself with that. It's also shown as a time to look at your values more clearly. Are you doing something that you really love? Is your heart in it? Leo, it's your month of heart, and it's your responsibility to make sure the heart is feeling full and satisfied. That's only going to work if you make sure that you're connecting with all the right people and allowing the right people to actually come close to you and share those goals with you. In other areas of your life, relationships as well, the question is all about heart. That'll help you know who's with you, who maybe is just adding a little bit of extra baggage in your life, and help you get your priorities right. Virgo, also important for personal relationships this month for you, and that department is looking really great. There'll be many Virgos who start new relationships this month, but even those who are already in relationships, you're going to find the relationship entering a really smooth area. The planet Venus is strong in the chart this month, and Venus is all about heart and love and connection and those types of values. And that's really where your chart strongly lies for this month. Virgo is right in there with Venus, and it's really all about making sure that the relationships are all about the heart. So, in your existing relationship, in order to get it to the next level or bring it back on track or just feed it some good energy, it's all about love and making sure that that's what we're expressing. Virgos are very practical people, and sometimes that practicality can come across as a kind of coldness or something which really isn't about what relationships are supposed to be about. So show your loving side. You really care. You really want the best for the people around you. And this is the time to express that as love, as fun, as shared pleasures and as about talking about your innermost stuff and creating better bonds with that. Great for relationships. Enjoy it. Libra, a bit of a realignment of your financial issues and matters is at hand this month, and you actually need to knuckle down and re strategize when it comes to matters of finance. This is especially relevant with things like investments or partnerships where you have a certain amount of your resources invested in or reliant upon someone outside of yourself. And this is what really needs to be uh, better boundaried and disciplined this month. Not as if anyone's trying to harm you, but it doesn't look like it's going to benefit you. It's looking like you're losing with regards to these outside forces. So it doesn't mean that all investments are wrong or anything like that. It just means this is where reassessment needs to happen. And to kind of get your resources back under your own control immediately related to you. That might be a good strategy in terms of looking at not only financial resources, but other resources where you rely on people or things in order to get your goals done. A more successful way at this time to achieve anything is going to be about being more self reliant than being reliant on others. It's a simple approach that's going to make a big difference. Scorpio, this is your month to do it differently. It may be that existing old strategies, whatever, might not be working. They may even still be working. Even still, it's time to do something a little bit differently. That can mean taking a stand, standing up for your own point of view, even though it seems at variance with what everyone else is doing, saying, suggesting, etc. at this time. So it is an important time for you to be able to push ahead, kind of no matter what they say and no matter what they do. It's really time for you to be going ahead with your own goals. Not a great time for travel or anything that gets you out of your comfort zone, out of your safe space. This is a time to be focusing on matters where you are and ensuring that you create new ground, you create new goals, because, as I've said, this is really all about you and it's not about them. You do need to take it a little bit carefully, though. There are warnings against recklessness in your chart, so this has got to be carefully thought through and strategic, and then it's going to work. Sagittarius, as you know, every now and then it's all about too much of a good thing, and this could be one of those months. But it's the kind of nice good thing that's not going to have too many consequences, as long as you make sure you properly balance your time. So you're very popular this month, and there's too much social activity, is the main thing that your chart is alerting you to. For the most part, there's no loss in too much social activity. But the balance of time is the issue that's shown in your chart, because they're great opportunities for your goals to be pursued. It's like someone is seeing you, and whether they're existing goals, whether there's something that you're trying to do or get noticed, it is going to be seen. So there's great opportunities. And this is the month of balancing professional opportunities with social demands. Something that you've experienced a lot of that in your life by now, but doesn't mean that you've mastered the art of doing that. You also need to make sure that the goals themselves are not spread too thin. Professional area of your chart is clearly warning against that right now, that you could have too many things on your plate. Also, not something new for you. Confine yourself to one or two things at a time. Make sure each new thing builds on something before, and you'll get through this month with the best of both worlds. Capricorns, a recurring theme in your chart this year has been about reassessing and adjusting your bigger goals. And this is very much a month for that. It's time to assess the bigger picture of, why am I doing what I'm doing? What do I really want to get out of this? And not only in terms of what I actually am doing, but what I could be doing that will give me a greater sense of satisfaction. Capricorns typically can have an effect on their larger world, their group, their society, their business, whatever the case may be. Often their actions affect the people around them. But what is really at issue at the moment, Capricorn, is the extent to which this fulfills a greater sense of your ideals or something that is really meaningful to you. So the real question here is, are my goals meaningful at this time? Do they satisfy a deeper sense of something that I want to achieve? Also, because as ever, people are taking you very seriously at this time. It's a time to be standing up and standing up for yourself and going forward. People will respond very well. So put your best goals on the table, start walking with them, and other people are going to follow you. Aquarius, it seems that there is something that you've been avoiding or sweeping under the carpet, and it's really time to face what you have to face. It's not a big, dark, scary thing. It could be something you just don't want to do. And one of those things at this time in your chart looks like you don't want to be the one to stand up and have the spotlight on you, or you don't want to be the one who has to deal with who has to make sure that whatever gets done. But you are the one this month. So it's like time to take responsibility for certain things, even if you're not really the one who's responsible for them. This isn't a time to stand up on a high horse about that. It's time to really just get the job done. This is a great opportunity to clear those things that you don't want to do and that you've been sweeping under the carpet, not just face them, but to actually clear yourself of a lot of unnecessary, unneeded baggage that anyway doesn't even hurt you. So you may as well get rid of it rather than carrying it around and avoiding doing it. It is important, though, that this is also a good time for a lot of inner work to be done, to question yourself on why do I do what I do, or what is it that I'm doing, and find yourself a stronger place to stand on. People are taking you seriously at this time. People will take your goals seriously, but what needs to be demonstrated by you is this ability to deal with stuff, get it done, move on. And again, like your next door neighbors, the Capricorns, people be willing to follow you, which might not be something you really want, but they're going to do it anyway. Pisces, sometimes shy and retiring, but not right now. This is a great go ahead time for Pisces. It's been building in your chart on and off for the last couple of months, and it really seems as if you can make a big impact on your goals or on anything where you really need to focus your energy. Sometimes your energies are scattered and dissipated, and you're too much in your head and your imagination, and people easily take advantage of you because you always want to help them. This is not that time. This is the time to say there's a little bit of a new me for a while where you're more selfish, more goal directed, and more able to achieve. There's a strong tendency for things to get achieved and done in the chart in your life this month. So you've got to capitalize on it while you can. Even where you might feel confused or the usual Piscean tendency to want to escape and get away from everything you have to do, don't let that happen. You've just got to push forward this month because you can really make a lot of progress. It's a good month for it's all about me. This is where anything personal can really benefit, anything that brings you into the spotlight or brings you recognition for what you do. This is the month to push for it, to go for it, and to relish in the attention that you get. Enjoy.